I'm just going to say welcome. We wanted to use these plenty of people, but we're going to call the musicians, right? Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. We want to try to start on time at 6:30 because the church is kicking us out. No, they have a very, very tight timeline, and they've been wonderful about setting this up. Actually, Thelonious Monk had his memorial in the same place. Isn't that amazing? And certainly that's something Dom deserves. He always said, nobody will pay any attention to my music probably until after I'm gone. Well, Dom, I'm not sure, but we're going to do our best to start tonight. You're going to hear all kinds of music that a lot of you didn't know he did. Besides regular straight-ahead jazz, avant-garde jazz, he wrote 300 children's 300 children's songs because he taught in school. He had his license, and he even taught special ed. And one of those songs you're going to hear tonight, as well as a lot of other things. So it's a huge variety. But tonight could not have happened without two really special people. One is Hans Tammen, who orchestrated all these incredible, incredible musicians. And you know, Dom only played with the best. He never would play with anything less than the best, and that's what you're going to hear tonight. And the other is my friend and sister I never had, Margot Katzimatidis, who without, she got me through. The first person I called, she got me through. She took me to I don't even want to say, Dom wrote me a whole email of what he wanted done if something bad happened and he didn't make it out of the hospital. I refused to read that email. So Margot did it when she came to the hospital on the last day. She gave him the courage to leave because he said, I don't want to go to Calvary. It's in the Bronx and I'll never see Carol because I don't take trains and it's like 1,000 miles away. And anyway, Margot stepped up and said, Dom, it's my gift. I'm sending Carol to you every day in an Uber, back and forth, and that's what she did. It made Dom relax. It gave him peace that he never had before, and it enabled us to be together for the next few weeks. And when he got there, the doctor said, you're not here to die, you're here for a tune-up. So we really expected him to rise like a phoenix and get out of there, but here we are instead celebrating his life, and I want to thank you all. Some of you will come as far as Mexico, California, Texas, Maine, Baltimore. I can't even think of all the places you've come from, and I can't thank you enough. It's very touching. Okay, Hans, do you want to introduce the first person that's coming up here? I think, is it Bill? Yeah, no, come on up, come on up. Oh, you're changing the schedule. Well, Dom always hated the fact that I had to rehearse because everything is improvised, so here we go. Go ahead.
Great, thanks everybody for coming here. I can't tell you how much of an honor it is to organize this event for our friend and fellow guitarist Dom Minasi. What I did is I looked at all of the ensembles that he had over the years, and I put the bands a little bit together, like things he had recorded, groups he played a lot with, and I had always, had invited some other guitarists he played with to get into his shoes. It's a steep order, I know, but we'll do it. So I have lots of ensembles here. It's always like one guitarist and one of the ensembles that Dom had over the years. I changed slightly the schedule because I felt before we have some more talks here, we have one piece of music first, and I asked Ken Filiano and Jay Rosen to come on stage and get ready. And after that, I have the honor to introduce Bill Milkowski, who had a couple of interviews with Dom, and we're playing them actually from the video screen. Jay and Ken. Please have a warm welcome for Bill Milkowski. Okay, he'll tell you himself what. No?
Thank you, Hans, and thank you, Carol. Man, you know, looking at these photos, the story of you and Dom is like a love story for the ages. It's just beautiful. I was very moved by the wedding photos and just all the love that you shared. It was a very romantic relationship you had. So I'm here to introduce these videos that Hans was able to salvage just a couple of days ago. It was some interview footage that I did with Dom 22 years ago in preparation for writing liner notes for Taking the Duke Out, which is the great album recorded live at the Knitting Factory, April 23rd, 2001. So the story behind these little clips that you'll see is a very good friend of mine, Aldo Moro, who's a photographer, had gotten a camcorder and he wanted to experiment with it. And he asked if he could come along up to Carol and Dom's place on 104th Street and just play around with his new camcorder. So as I interviewed Dom, and it was probably for an hour long, but these clips are just 1, 2, and 3 minutes long, Aldo was shooting. And they're great because you get to see in these clips what a jovial cat he was and what a beautiful laugh he had. So for that reason alone, I'm glad that they were able to be converted. They were 22 years old and no system current day could read them. And through Hans's genius, he was able to convert it, and you'll see it soon. What I wanted to do is actually read portions of these liner notes that I wrote for this album, Taking the Duke Out, because I think it captures some of Dom's spirit and his musical philosophy. I'll just read a few paragraphs that I think are appropriate. Okay. There are a handful of guitarists, Derek Bailey, James Blood Elmer, Sonny Chirac, Joe Morris, Fred Frith come to mind, who have remained as defiantly, refreshingly uncliched over time as Dom Minasi. Imagine a composite of guitarist Johnny Smith and saxophonist Eric Dolphy, and you've got a good idea of where Dom is coming from on his axe. Minasi's phantasmagorical approach to Ellingtonia is at once disorienting and inspiring, reverential and rebellious. It embraces the tradition while flouting it. His reharmonized and otherwise radically altered interpretations of such sacred cows as Satin Doll, I Got It Bad and That Ain't Good, and Take the A Train is out enough to piss off purists, though grounded enough in the harmonic essence of these well-known compositions to highlight the degree of daring in Dom's heady extrapolations. An artful balancing act between strict arrangement and pure improvisation. Taking the Duke out is that rare commodity, a wholly fresh take on perhaps the most oft-recorded composer in all of jazz. Minasi is well aware that his latest release is bound to raise the ire of straight-laced Ellington fans and scholars, among others. Quote, "Oh yeah, I know that," he nonchalantly acknowledges. "And I also know for a fact that a lot of guitar players can't stand the way I play. But what am I going to do? They think I'm crazy, but you know, that's just how I see it." The Dom Minasi story began on March 6, 1943. Significantly, he shares a birthday with Wes Montgomery. Guitar came into his life early on. I studied for a long time with this teacher named Joe Gianelli in Queens, and he used to improvise. I was just a baby at the time. I started with him when I was 7, and I used to ask him, "What is that?" And he says, "Improvising." And I said, "How do you do that?" And he said, "It comes from your heart." I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I kept on playing, trying to find out. Dom experienced his first major jazz epiphany while rehearsing in a high school swing band. These guys loved to play so much that they would rehearse at home, besides going to school and rehearsing, Dom recalls. And the first time we had a rehearsal at somebody's house, someone said to me, "You ever hear this guy Johnny Smith?" So I checked him out, and I never heard a guitar played like that in my life. I totally flipped, went out and got as many Johnny Smith albums as I could, and then one day I saw that he was at Birdland. I begged my father to take me there. I was 14 and a half. So we went down, I sat right in front and watched this guy play with my mouth open, and I knew that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Dom began hanging out at the original Birdland in 1957, which was an eye-opening experience for a jazz-hungry 14-year-old. They had a peanut gallery for kids, and so I saw all the greats there. I used to tell my parents I was going to the movies, and I would shoot into Birdland and get to see everybody, Miles, Coltrane, everybody. It was a big influence on me at the time. When I first heard John Coltrane when I was like 14 and a half, I didn't understand it at all. It was way beyond me because I was basically a beginning jazz player. But about 2 or 3 years later, around 61, 62, that's when I started to get it. And that's when I started to head in that direction. Eric Dolphy would later on make a huge impact on the impressionable young jazz guitarist. Dolphy totally amazed me, he says. Coltrane came in with that modal thing, but Eric Dolphy was doing everything. Polytonal, polyrhythmic. The guy was so far ahead of his time, he just totally knocked me out. I got to the point when I was 18 that I just didn't want to play like other guitar players. So I stopped listening to guitar players and listened to horn players. The fluidity that sax players have is something that I tried to emulate in my own playing, but you have to work really hard on guitar to get that thing happening. It's not that I want to be a horn player, it's just I hear it that way, and I feel that's the way for me to go. And that really captures what this cat was about. And so let's look at this clip, a little brief clip of the interview, and you can see what a really, like I say, jovial, spirited cat Dom was. Thank you.
You have a percussive thing going on too, chordally, which you've developed. You really address the instrument in a percussive way. That's a unique approach as well.
Well, it is a percussive instrument. I mean, my big influences were Latin music and drummers. I mean, you listen to guys like Max Roach or Elvin Jones. I mean, the polyrhythms and all that. And, I mean, it's a natural way of playing. To me, all of this stuff is natural. You know, it's the way you're supposed to play. You know.
A good example of this is on the new album, Take the A Train.
Right, that's right.
Talk about this relationship that you have had over years with Ellington and the reason that you came to interpret these Ellington tunes now.
Well, I mean, Ellington, of all the composers, I guess is the most played of everybody. And I had I played with Ellington when I was a kid, but then in the 70s I hooked up with a guy that I knew from the 60s who was working out in Long Island. His name was Joe Coleman, and I had just recorded my first album with Blue Note, and he says, I have a steady gig out in Long Island, and I have all these players that come in and sit in. And Joe at one point loved Duke Ellington, and had at one point actually subbed a couple of times. So I said, yeah, I'll go out, I'll come out. And eventually I became part of the rhythm section, and he had guest artists, George Coleman, Harry Shepard, Arnie Lawrence, Charles McPherson, who was in town this weekend.
Yeah.
And it was always Duke Ellington tunes. Always Duke Ellington. So I mean, we could, and at some point there were times when he started to get so much work that we would do 2 or 3 gigs a day, morning, especially in the summertime, morning concerts, afternoon concerts, nighttime concerts, or a club at night, and it would be Santal 3 times a day, in a Melatonin 3 times a day, Sophisticated Lady 3 times a day. So, I mean, I played these tunes over and over and over. And but it was always the kind of, like that same kind of swing kind of thing. And a few times I did start to, like go out on it, and I was like, no, you can't do that, And I started to, substitute some of the changes, and a couple of the older guys who had played, he said, you can't substitute Duke Ellington, you can't do stuff like that. I said, oh, okay. So, but now, 20 years later, I said, the hell with it. Why not? Mm-hmm. I mean, what makes it that you can't do this or you can't do that? What's going to stop me from doing this? I love music. I mean, and if I can't just keep growing, what's the use of playing? That's how I feel about it. I mean, if I can't go to the next level, I'm already working on stuff to go to the next level, different approaches. And trying to make these things work.
What's happening, Hans? Who's on next? I'm going to do something soon. By the way, as far as Dom loving music, even when he slept, his fingers would move. He would be playing. And sometimes he would tune out when I was talking. I said, where are you? He said, I'm composing.
Great. Let's welcome Thor Snyder on guitar, Steve Swell on trombone, Dominic Duval Jr. on bass, and Jackson Krall on drums. Martin, do you want to come up? We have a little program change. Oh, there he is. Yeah?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Hans. We are mixing it up a little bit. If I don't do it now, I don't think I can get through it after seeing that video and everything of Dom, so you'll forgive me. I've never been on this platform without Dom before. We were honored to play the Jazz Vespers, which, as you know, is a really strong part of this church. And actually, and you came, I can't believe it. We got married in 2000 in June, and the pastor at the time, Reverend Dale Lind, is here with his wife, Marcia. I can't believe you came. Thank you so much. Margot was my maid of honor at that wedding. We each only had one person standing up for us, and she managed the whole thing because the manager disappeared, and she had to take over, telling them, "Get out of the kitchen, stop watching the baseball game, and go serve the cake." And there was a famous television show called The Millionaire, and Pastor Dale actually said, after all the vows, he said, "Is that your final answer?" And then someone from the audience yelled, "Do you want to call a friend?" I mean, he made it really fun and very lightweight. Did you remember that? Yeah? Well, I don't know. It was a long time ago, but I'm so happy to see you. So this, thank you. This, is it working now? I'm going to move. This microphone that I'm using now, Dom actually bought for me, and I can't do one of his songs. When we had a fight, he never sent me flowers or candy or poems. He'd write a song. He wrote so many songs. I can't do any of them tonight, but there is a very short Rodgers and Hart tune that is so right for tonight. You'll forgive me if I... Anyway, it's called He Was Too Good for Me, and we recorded it on my CD. Dom never wrote a chart for it because it was just the two of us, even though there were obviously incredible musicians on it. And Martin, who is one of Dom's not only students, but he was his computer genius, and he was also there almost every day at the hospital and did so many other supportive things. And anyway, this is Rodgers and Hart. He was too good to me. How can I get along now? So close he stood to me. Everything seems all wrong now. He would have brought me the sun, making me smile. That was his fun. When I was mean to him, he'd never say, "Go away now." I was a queen to him. Who's gonna make me gay now? It's only natural I'm blue. He was too good. He was too good. He was too good to be true. Thank you, Mark.
I would like to welcome to the stage Harvey Valdez on guitar, Ras Moshe on saxophone, Cheryl Pyle on flute, and Hilliard Greene on bass. Ras Moshe, Cheryl Pyle, Hilliard Greene, and Harvey Valdez. As somebody who joined the first union when I was 18, it's a great honor for me to ask John Pietaro from the union Local 802 to give us a tribute. John, let's do the following. Come over here, get ready, and I have to go to the machine over there, and I would like to play, before John starts, another one of the interviews that Bill Milkowski did.
For a minute, I thought that Hans was going to go, repay some back union dues that might have been owed, but my error on that. I got to say, this is an honor, and this room is amazing. You can throw a dart in any direction and hit one of the great musicians of new music. So it's a special, special occasion to be here. And I was in touch with Carol just a little while ago when I had written this obituary, something I didn't think I'd be doing. And I must say, I was very moved to be part of this entire thing. I got to know Dom playing percussion in some of the Ras Moshe ensembles in various hovels in Brooklyn. And we had an amazing time. And then there was another time when I was on my way to the Burn Nicks Festival in New Jersey. My wife and I were driving out there, I should say, and Dom called me up and said, I'm going to be playing, can I hitch a ride? And that was one of the most educational hour and a half moments that I had a chance to enjoy, because Dom spoke so much about his music, his lengthy career. And I found out things that I never knew. And I spoke so much about Carol and so much about his family. It was just a beautiful ride, and that stayed with me. So about a year and a half ago, when I was able to get Dom to come back into the Musicians Union, I was really happy to give him, not only to get him back into the union, but to get him a gig through the union that we had in our program in association with the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation. So this all featured into the piece that I wrote for the union's magazine, Allegro, and this was out in the, I guess, in the month just after his passing. So I'll just read it to you straight out, although there's a lot of things in here that's already been discussed. But the beloved jazz guitarist Dom Minasi passed on August the 1st, aged 80, following several arduous confining periods of illness. But even within that time, he maintained enthusiastic contact with the music world outside of his Upper West Side apartment windows, recording new material, writing articles for All About Jazz, listening to everything, and of course, working gigs whenever he could. One of those was through the Music for the Soul program at Local 802 Partners with the Health and Hospitals Corp. That particular day, Dom, his fluid aerial sounds went through the rafters at Harlem Hospital, and I was so pleased, and all I got were these amazing reports about how gorgeous that trio sounded that day. He originally was going to have a different ensemble with you, and you had another gig from what he told me, which is always a good reason to miss anything. If you're working, that's what we want. A professional musician, since he was in his teens, Dom rejoined Local 802 after decades away, expressing utter joy when the membership department told him his original card number would still be his. So he kind of regained it. And he called me up and said, wow, John, I got my old card number. How do they still have it? I thought it was beautiful, because your card number is your card number for life, for anybody who's a member. So it was exemplary, his excitement about that, as to how he was. He loved these simple things. He ignored what ailed him. And if there was even a prospect of having a guitar in his hand, that was Dom's focus. When playing, or simply in the presence of Carol, Dom's soft gaze and unassuming smile were perennials and always, always lured you in. Accounts of Dom's gigs in New York and everywhere else are legion. He was signed to Blue Note in '74, recording a pair of albums, and later that decade performed with Frank Forster, George Coleman, Dave Brubeck, Roger Kellaway, and Jimmy Heath, among many others. He became immersed in jazz composition and arranging, studying formally at CUNY, also my alma mater, and was the principal of the Manhattan Improvisational Chamber Ensemble, A sought-after private teacher, Dom was also a teaching artist with young audiences in New York, creating a music literacy component which inspired an entire body of work geared toward the city's youth. He also authored 3 books on harmony and improvisation. He had left that information out when we were driving to New Jersey that day. Dom found a vital place between in and out music, even recording an album, as you heard today from Bill, of Duke Ellington's music. Ellington's music, by way of the guitarist's own free spirit, I need to add, and I said here, Dom was known to complain about having been fired from too many straight-ahead gigs. The last thing I wanted to put in here was that whether he was on the bandstand or not, when he was playing music with her or not, Dom always referred to Carol as my best friend and my muse, something that is so beautiful and that I can associate with. The magic of their pairing remains ongoing, and I left off at this particular piece with a link that I don't think we have up here today, but if any of you have a chance to go to YouTube, it's Dom's organ trio, this ensemble he was very, very proud of because it kind of took where he came from, that historical aspect, and he could take it as far out as he wanted because it all looked like it was the cover of a Blue Note album from '58. And he did Round Midnight on this video. So anybody who hasn't seen that, Kyle Kohler and Jay Rosen are on that recording as well. And it conveys what words cannot. It was his musicianship that was just majestic. And the echo of the tacit of Dom's loss. Thank you so much.
So Dom, you're still crazy after all these years.
After all these years, right? Paul Simon.
You have this unusual approach to the instrument. It's almost unprecedented in a way. When I saw you at the gig at the Knitting Factory, I was trying to figure out what this is coming out of. And it was so original, so unusual. There must have been some point where you diverged from the pack and started making your own voice. There must have been a period of time when you were coming up with the tradition, playing in the conventional sense, but you made a decided move away from that.
I actually made the decided move when I was a lot younger, when I was 16, 17. I just stopped listening to guitar players and I just got into my own thing. But then what happened was, when I actually made my living as a musician, I was 18, I became a full-time musician, and I started working in those days, you worked in a band 5-6 nights a week, and you could play jazz and you could play standards, but you also had to play a show, cut a show. And so, when I joined this band, I only knew 50 songs, and the saxophone player only knew 50 songs, so we made a pact that we would learn 3 songs a night. And that's what we did. So that's how I built up my repertoire. And we could take solos on them, but the leader came up to me after the first month and says, you know, Dom, he says, you're not playing in the measures, you're kind of playing like outside the measures and over the measure bars. He says, you know, people don't understand that.
Isn't that what Charlie Parker did?
I know, but we were talking about in a nightclub where people went to dance. You know, we're talking about pop radio, which. So I had to relearn my thinking how to play, and I had to learn how to play a little bit more tonal, because everybody used to say I was playing a lot of wrong notes. To me, they weren't wrong notes, you know. But that's so I did that for a while, and then when I was in my mid-20s, I said I had enough of this. I'm going back to the other way. And I started to develop it again and get into that situation. And then I started to put myself out of work, so I had to go back to the I was always going back, you know, and to the point where, you know, I was getting fired every week. It was amazing.
God, I've forgotten how young we all were. Right now, this is a beautiful ballad that Dom actually wrote for his father, called For My Father, and Dom's son, Dominic Jr. By the way, my Dom hated to be called Dominic, but thankfully you do, so there's some difference in there. Anyway, and his son, Dominic, he always said Dom was a natural talent, but he loved rock and roll. So I thought I wasn't sure he wanted to, but he's going to play for my father, which is so appropriate. And I think there's going to be some pictures, too, of Dom when he was young. Oh, okay. And that guitar he's using, he chose, I told him to pick out any guitar of Dom's that he wanted, except for that one up there with the empty chair. Dom always sat in a chair. He never had a strap on his guitar. That one I had made for him. Just really quickly, when Dom went to this wonderful guitar master, he said when he heard Dom playing, "Who are you? Who are you?" He said, "I've been saving this piece of wood for 45 years for the right person. I would be willing to make the guitar out of that wood for you." So I went up to him and said, "I want to have that done, but remember, Dom, this is your anniversary, Christmas, and birthday present for the rest of your life, okay?" So that was the only guitar I said to Dominic, "You can't have." And it's sitting up there in spotlights that Mario gave me. And with the empty chair. Okay, enough. For my father with Dominic Jr.
Thank you. That song, as Carol mentioned, was a song that he wrote for his dad, and I had the obvious privilege of being able to play that for him using his guitar, his Strat, and I think even his amp. It's definitely a privilege and honor to be able to share a little bit about him. Most of you know him as a musician, but as a person, maybe some of you might not. As my dad, there's a lot to talk about him. He had a wonderful sense of humor, very funny, very a little crazy too. I remember when he was his first wife, she had asked him to paint the kitchen, and so he did, yellow with black polka dots. He thought that was funny. She blamed it on his music. He had a funny sense of humor with us too. I remember one time he would come late from his gigs. One time he got home at 2 in the morning, and he just thought it would be funny to put his face at the windowsill by his daughter to see if she would wake up and see his face at the window. And of course she did, and she screamed bloody murder. But he had a funny, weird sense of humor. He used to have us, like skedaddle, like all these different jazz things on the table, and we just thought, this is weird, but it was fun. He just had a really wonderful sense of humor. Spiritually, him and I definitely disagreed on a lot of different things, but the one thing was definitely certain about him is he was always searching, always asking questions, always wondering. He didn't believe in sort of the traditional approaches to religion, but he definitely believed that there was something else out there besides us. And I remember walking in just a few days before he passed away. I would try to see him as often as I could, and one Sunday afternoon, actually, I went to go see him, and there he was listening to, believe it or not, Joel Osteen. I was like, what is he doing? And we wound up talking, and we wound up praying together. And that was the last time I would see him. I remember how caring he was, I used to teach the children at my church, and one day I was at church and I noticed a spot on my hand, and I didn't understand what this was, but it was itchy, and I didn't know what it was, so I went to a nurse, and I said, what is that? She goes, that looks like chickenpox. I went, what? So I immediately went to the doctor, and I said, yeah, that's when you have chickenpox. And I said, I don't want to be back in my apartment with no air conditioning. It was the middle of the summer. Where am I going to go? So I called my father, and so he said, come on in. And so I came to his house, and he just took care of me for a whole week. He had me sleep in his bed and watch over me. I remember there were times, especially when I was a single adult, and even times when I was married, times were difficult. And he did whatever he could to take care of me. He was a very caring individual. He was a great teacher. I have been taught by several musicians in my lifetime, but no one was as good as my dad. He was an incredible teacher. I always learned something new from him, and at one point I was starting to take lessons from him about a year and a half ago, and I just learned so much. But I remember skipping classes with him because if you knew my dad, he had a very high standard for his students. If you've ever been taught by him, you don't come in unprepared. So there were a couple of times I said, no, I can't make it. I just click. I just didn't want to hear it from him. He had a very high standard, but he was a great teacher. I learned so much from him. Musician, well, that goes without saying. He was phenomenal. He could play anything. Well, within the jazz category, not so much rock and roll. He never really liked rock and roll, but he was incredible. And I used to, because he had such a high standard for music. I remember sometimes my wife and I would watch like the Grammy Awards. And the Grammy Awards now is just pop mostly. So I would text him just to mess with him and go, "Oh, this was such a great musical arrangement. The professionalism." He just goes, "You're kidding, right?" He just had, because he has such a high standard. I just like to mess with him.
But he was a great musician, and he was a wonderful artist. I mean, what is an artist? Someone who just draws outside the lines, creates his own way, his own thing. And that's who he was, you know? And, you know, he just put himself out there, and you're either going to do it, and people are going to like it, or people won't. He was so courageous. And that's the biggest lesson I learned from him is just be yourself. Be yourself, you know? And as long as you're not hurting anybody, you're not trying to hurt anybody, just be yourself. And I'm going to miss him. Go in peace, Dad. Go in peace.
Thomas Ulrich on cello, Eyal Maoz on guitar, Susan Alcorn on pedal steel guitar, all the way from Philadelphia, and Ken Filiano on bass. This is a little bit modeled after an ensemble that he felt like it's a string quartet. It's not a classical string quartet in a classical sense, but it was like all string players, including guitars and cello and so on. The original idea was that these players play a piece by Dom, which is like hard to read, and one of them had like some eye problems and eye surgery or whatever. I don't want to say who it is, but they can't read anymore, or at least not tonight. So they play this piece by Dom, or at least in the idea of that piece, and they improvise. Thomas Ulrich, Eyal Maoz, Susan Alcorn, and Ken Filiano. I'd like Thomas Ulrich, Eyal Maoz, Susan Alcorn, and Ken Filiano. I'd like to have Nora McCarthy, Jorge Sylvester, and Andrew Greene coming here to get ready for a poem that they perform. And while they're setting up, I'm playing another interview that Bill Milkowski did with Dom Minasi. But I have to run up there.
We turned on. Okay, there we go. All right, thank you. Well, we are very grateful. I'm very grateful to have known Dom Minasi and his wife, beautiful wife Carol, and to have spent a lot of time with both of them at their place, and to have worked with Dom. We had a group together called Manna for Thought, which included Ras Moshe. And my original poem for Dom, we did at the first thing that they did at Scholl's that Raz had organized. And it was really 12 pages long. So I decided I would just do a little improv along with over a piece that he wrote the day after next. And I'm going to improvise and read parts of that poem that, to me, the things that outlined who this man was as not only an outstanding musician, but as a phenomenal friend and mentor to me. So he was, as he used to say, something else. Friend, bandmate, and mentor. Can you see us? Can you see us as we lift you up in love? These past 4 months have been hard to process and hard to accept. We reflect on all you gave us and all you left. We lift you up in love and in prayer. You were a warrior, the likes of which I've never known. Nothing could stop you or keep you down. You never gave an inch. Round after round after round, you kept on fighting. You stayed in the game to laugh, to live, to love, and to play, to love, to live, to laugh, and to play. You were a lion heart, my friend. You left a dent in this experiment we call life. You gave it all you had and you held on tight. To whom and what you love the most? Carol, your muse, your beloved wife, your family, and the music you adored. I'll always savor the memories of the sessions that we played, how you always stayed ahead of the sound, holding it down in an artful way. The images of you smashing through the barriers of timeless bars and measures, I'll forever treasure. Opening up the figures and the forms, shredding them into splinters of atonal aural pleasures with your blazing guitar. Pure conceptual motivation of harmony and balance, like a taciturn star glowing in space. It is said you were a six-string Cecil Taylor, but you were none other than an original player, an untimely genius whose voice was without peer, a maestro, an extremely skilled and advanced craftsman, an innovator of the highest order, a leader, not a follower, a groundbreaker. A one-man demolition band who carved his own path and never stopped taking it out, past the Duke and beyond. You were an evolving circle in a square world. Fair, wise, forgiving, outspoken, and caring, both old school and modern, old school and modern, old school and modern. Simultaneously simple and complex, straight ahead and bluesy. You could play the hell out of a standard and then tear it up, remodel it into something abstract, avant-garde, and artistically unfettered. Free as a bird, a real jazz hipster, an in and outside player, a musical shapeshifter, designer and director. The real deal. Jazz royalty, a combination of Dolphy and Wes Montgomery, but all Dom Minasi. The music world will remember you, Dom, for your incredible virtuosity and improvisational ability. Your body of work expanded the jazz vocabulary, and that is your legacy. But your story doesn't end here as we gather together to honor you at St. Peter's. We will continue in your name, in your passion, in your unrelenting, never giving up or giving in fashion. For you not only left your mark on the music, but on all of us as well. One day, we will see you again, dear friend and mentor. And every time we play, your spirit will lead our way, and we will take it out in your name. When a great one dies, the universe gets a little smaller, and the sun gets a little dimmer, and the silence gets a little louder. And until we meet again, Dom, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you hear us as we celebrate your life? Can you feel us as we raise you up in light? rise in peace and sound, Dom.
Thank you, Nora McCarthy, Horace Sylvester, and Andrew Greene. The next ensemble is Eyal Maoz on guitar, Blaise Siwula on alto saxophone, Thomas Ulrich on cello, and Jay Rosen on drums.
Thank you so much, everybody. You're just so terrific. And Blaze came all the way from Mexico for this. Yay, Blaze. Okay. Dom and Blaze played so much. Anyway, I gotta keep it short, keep it short. Right now, something totally different. This is one of Dom's most beautiful children's piece of children's music he wrote when he was teaching. It's called Mama, It's Cold. It's cold out here. It's about a soldier writing to his mother the night before he crossed the Delaware with George Washington, but it could be for any soldier in any war. And the soldier, of course, that was the last letter he ever wrote. And it's recorded by our neighbor and good friend, Devin Rattray. There they are. And the Rattrays are really dear friends of ours. They live a few in the same building, and Devin just came up and Dom recorded it in our studio with just a little 8-track recorder, and then had Devin harmonize with himself. It's really very touching and a whole different side of Dom. Can we hear it now? Mama, it's cold out here.
This is the story of a young soldier who writes a letter to his mother, knowing that it could be the last words he ever puts on paper. And the letter reads, Mama, it's cold out here. Mama, it's cold. Mama, it's cold out here. Mama, it's cold. I'm cold and hungry. I miss our family. Our reasons are great. We face our fate. Mama, it's cold out here. Mama, it's cold. Mama, it's cold out here. Mama, it's cold. We all agree we must be free. The price is high, but we must try. Mama, it's cold out here. Mama, it's cold. Mama, it's cold out here. Mama, it's cold. I may not come back. I may die. I write to you, Mama. Please don't cry. Mama, it's cold out here. Mama, it's cold. Mama, it's cold out here. Mama, it's cold. What a beautiful sight. The river is frozen tonight. It might be hard to cross. If we don't, all will be lost. Mama, it's cold out here. Mama, it's cold. Mama, it's cold out here. Mama, it's cold. Time to get aboard. Pack my rifle and my sword. Mama, pray for me. Tonight we make history. Mama, it's cold out here. Mama, it's cold. Mama, it's cold out here. Mama, it's cold. Mama, it's cold out here. Mama, it's cold. Mama, it's cold out here. Mama, it's cold out here.
Devin hates me to say this because he's all grown up now and he's done so many other things, but he was the older brother, Buzz, in Home Alone. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out. He couldn't be here tonight because he's not feeling well, but his brother, the whole family is talented. His brother, Luke Rattray, did that great photograph of Dom, that profile, which is also on your program. He's an incredible photographer and artist. And their father is an incredible actor and also coach, Peter Rattray. Now, enough.
I see. Andrew Greene, Horst Sylvester, and Nora McCarthy, while the first performance was a poem by Nora. They're now playing a piece written by Dom a while ago, I think from your trio Mana for Thought, right? No? Another one, okay. Great, cool.
Jay Rosen actually was
Do you have a mic on? Or you don't give a mic.
The Other Side of Dom. Gentle, my love, treat us gently, my dear. Nurture the love, caress all the feelings so preciously near. Softly, with a gentle touch, speak in terms of love I love so much. Slowly, my love, love me slowly, my dear. This time our love will be a love to last 1,000 years. Gently, let our hearts climb. Slowly, let us take our time. Gentle, my love, gentle, my love, gently, my love, as our hearts meet. Slowly, my love, love me slowly, my dear. This time our love will be a love to last 1,000 years. Gently let us climb. Slowly let us take our time. Gentle, my love, gently, my sweet. Gentle, my love, as our hearts meet.
Mara McCarthy, Andrew Green, and Horace Sylvester. So, where are my fellow Minasi guitar quartet guitarists? So, while they are setting up, so Briggan Krause, Javi Valdez, and Eyal Maoz, where are you guys? Ah, there they are. Great. Let me throw in like 2 or 3 words until while we're setting up. The first time I met Dom was like really over 10 years ago, and we were both playing in the so-called string section of a large ensemble of a friend of ours, who then conducted who plays what solo and duo and trio together, and all of a sudden he pointed to Dom and me, and we like went berserk for like 10 seconds. Then he pointed to other people, and it was just great. So it was just like really this bang, tung, tak, tak, this totally crazy interactive thing. And after the concert, we said like, come on, we need to do something. So sometimes it takes like 10 years to get musically warm with somebody, but for us it took like 10 seconds. So we played a couple of gigs in New York. We did a CD together, and then he invited me to his guitar quartet, where he wrote a couple of pieces for 4 guitars. They were like kind of, when guitarists playing like this, but most of the pieces were like, we had like these kind of weird kind of things to do, jump from here to there and back down, and so it was really not easy, and I'm really not a great reader, so it was like hard. So we went into, all thix rehearsals, and then we were ready to go in the studio, but then I have to say, one of our fellow members were Bern Nix. And Bern Nix passed away right when we wanted to go into the studio, so everything got, pulled back. And then we invited Briggan Krause. Ooh, Briggan Krause, give him a warm welcome, Briggan. You're sitting actually where my guitar is. Briggan, you're sitting where my guitar is, if you don't mind moving over. Or I move over, whatever. And then we did record a CD that came out on Unseen Rain Records. It's 8 Hands, 1 Mind. Check it out, it's great. Then the pandemic hit. We wanted to do a CD release concert. The pandemic hit, everything was over. Then you know the rest is history. And we invited for this occasion Eyal Maoz. Give a warm welcome to Eyal Maoz, who filled in literally on Monday. There was some other thing going on, but he had to jump in, and we're playing 2 pieces. One piece is The Misguided Heart. The other piece is Title 1. And he got this all down within 1 day. And then as I invited and as I called everybody here, also give a warm welcome to Javi Valdez, the 4th one in this ensemble. The Minasi Guitar Quartet. welcome Dom's brother, Tony Minasi.
They didn't tell me to be stairs. Interesting, at the end of the night, the one person in front of you is probably the only one in the room without any musical talent. First of all, I want to thank everybody. Hans, thank you very much for everything, all this organization, but especially Carol. Carol, not just for this, but for all those years of love and support. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. I am so glad that Dom's legacy will live on, not just in his music, but in his kids, his grandkids, his friends, and Carol. It's really nice to know that. Dom and I were as different as brothers could be. Carol knows. While Dom was the person who said, let's break the rules, let's have the chaos, my career took me in a way where I made sure everybody stayed in line. I became an expert at herding kittens, as they say in the technical field. But I knew that Dom was a great musician. Not because I understood what he was doing. I have no musical talent. I'm not a musician. I can't play an instrument. I can't read music. I don't even hum very well. And if we had a lot of time, I would tell you about the complete disaster it was when I took a music history course in college. But I could read the reviews, and I knew he was a great musician. And I knew he was a great innovator. Reading the reviews, they made me aware that he had hit a high level. And I know that it takes a lot in any field to hit a high level. A lot of people in this room understand. It takes a lot of perseverance. You have to overcome a lot of obstacles. It can't just be talent. Dom did that. So I didn't understand what he did, to be honest with you. But let me tell you what I did know and what I did understand. Even though I didn't understand Dom the musician, I understood Dom the big brother. And I can tell you without a shred of doubt that any of you in this room would have been so lucky to have him as a big brother. But I was blessed to be the one that had that. You know, our parents were immigrants. My father was a first-generation immigrant, and the way she was raised, my mother might as well have been, even though she was second generation. They didn't really understand the world we were now living in. Dom was 5 years older than me. He was kind of like a combination big brother and father. He's the one who taught me how to throw a baseball, dribble a basketball. And if any of the big kids in the neighborhood wanted to mess with me, they weren't going to do it because Dom was there. When I became a teenager, he taught me how to dress. And he would lend me his car if I had to go on a date. A very expensive car. And he would give it to this half-assed teenager just so I could impress somebody. When I got older, he was my best man at my wedding. When I had children, the look in his eye when he held them was incredible. As time went on, both of us went into careers that just totally consumed you. We didn't always stay in touch. But every once in a while I'd get a call and somebody would say, "How's your day gig?" Which is how he always referred to my job. And the one thing I always knew no matter how little we got to talk face to face, or how different our opinions were on things, was that my big brother was always there for me. You could feel it every conversation that he had my back. That's not something everybody can say, but I can say that. And this kindness he had towards me, it wasn't because we were biologically related. That was just a side thing. It was because that's who he was. It came from his soul. Kindness, caring about his friends and his family, that was hardwired in Dom. You could no longer separate that than you could separate him from any other trait. He was just an incredibly kind man. I am convinced that if I had not met him until I was like in my 40s or 50s, and we had been complete strangers and suddenly met, that he would have treated me with the same kindness. And I'm pretty sure that was validated by everything I heard today. So, although I can't speak to his music, what I'd like to remind everybody here today is we've lost a really kind person, but we were very, very blessed to have known him. So goodbye, my big brother. Rest in peace. You'll be missed and you'll be remembered. Thank you.
So I would like, unfortunately, we are a little bit over time soon, and we have to cut the last ensemble, which is like where almost everybody is still playing, but we have still one ensemble to play, which is Susan Alcorn on pedal steel guitar. Come on, who else? Jackson Krall on drums, and Dominic Duval Jr. on bass. And I would invite Michael Moss on soprano sax to it, who has not played today. It would have been part of the last ensemble. And this is a quartet. I don't know what they're doing. They're improvising. Dom was the greatest improviser. And we honor him by some great improvisation, including the organization of this event.
because your music, although it has moments of sounding atonal or dissonant, it still addresses the integrity of the tune. You're dealing with the harmony of Ellington's music.
Yes.
And it's this great balance between inside and outside on this
Yeah.
album.
I mean, I saw Kenny Burrell play. I must have been 15 at the 5 spot, I think, and he played a Monk tune. And I was still very young, so I said, wow, I like that song. You know, and I heard Kenny Burrell do it was, Well, You Needn't. And right there, that was like the perfect song to start to go out on. I have a tendency to like atonal music. I love atonal music. I don't know why, but it's just, I like the dissonance. So that's what I go for, my playing. But
Is there something in your own background, your childhood? What, did you come up with Spike Jones music or something?
No, it could have been my father taking me to Italian feasts where they had bad opera singers who sang out of tune. I just don't know.
All right, you guys were terrific. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you. Everybody here. Thank you. Really. Dom, you got to be watching this, and you got to be really happy. Right now, we're going to end this with a happy thing, and Dom wasn't crazy about doing Christmas music, but this demo, actually, this is one of them, got us into the White House with Clinton for Christmas. There's a whole long story, but I won't tell you all of that now. And you're going to hear Dom. He's actually scatting on it. I never learned how to scat. It was so frustrating. He actually wrote a song called "Why Can't I Scat?" And anyway, it was, I just tried, and he used to laugh at it, and he put all of that into the song. This is Santa Claus coming to town to end on a happy note, and as Han said, give Dom the last word. Then we're going to go right next door, and there's some great Italian food, wine, hot coffee, drinks, and vegetarian stuff for those of you. So I hope you'll all join us next door. And this time, we're going to give Dom the last word with a Christmas carol. Thank you.
You better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town, yeah! He's making a list, he's checking it twice, he's gonna find out who's naughty and nice. Santa Claus is coming to town. He knows if you are sleeping, he knows if you're awake. He knows if you are bad or good, so be good, for goodness sake. You better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town, yeah! Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-wah, doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-wah. He knows if you're sleeping, and he knows if you're awake. He knows if you're bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Oh, baby, watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to. Santa Claus is coming to. Santa Claus do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do